We all look back at the 1970s with fond memories, don't we? And so we should. We had chopper bikes, space hoppers, great TV, with Kojak, Starsky and Hutch, and the Bionic Man and the Bionic Woman. It was a great era for toys and gadgets, and all the family sitting round together to have meals. It was truly great, but what about those awful gadgets and inventions that were just bloody awful, or even stupid? Let's take a look at some of those most ridiculous and useless things we had around in the 1970s, and see how many you agree with. First of all, false record centres. You know those records that you bought from the ex-jukebox stands in the newsagents around Britain? You bought these plastic centres so you could play your records, your 45s. They just dropped straight through, and your auto changer on your record player would not cope. What they'd do is they'd leave all your stat records on the turntable, with all the centres still being stuck on the spindle, and the records would just play in a very weirdly fashion, very off-centre. Next up is these plastic toy soldiers with parachutes. Well, these were hard work right from the start. You'd throw them up into the air at height, and then you'd watch them glide down as the parachute opened, letting the little soldier land safely on the ground. Most of us would throw them out of their bedroom windows, but have to run up and down the stairs to retrieve them to throw them again. After one try, this not so spectacular skydive would just end up staying in the backyard and letting the dog next door having a better time chewing the damn thing up to bits. The Hostess trolley, eh? What was that all about? Unless you had maids and a mansion, what use was that? It was a trolley on 4 wheels that you wheeled out with your food and your drinks, just to impress your guests, all the way from the kitchen to the dining room, or in my working class state, the living room. It was banging against the door frame or the settee, spilling drinks and knocking over glasses and putting soup all over the floor, just to save you from carrying it a couple of feet. By the time you loaded it up, you may as well have just carried the items in yourself. And so the trolley would be in the corner of your room with knickknacks on it and little dusters or doilies, just getting dusty. Do you remember those awful brasses, mini brasses they were called, shaped like gramophones, barrels, kettles or clocks? Well, they weren't brass, they were just cheap alloy, spray painted. They were little and cheap, at around 30p or so. You'd probably get them from Predy's or Woolies, and they'd decorate your mantelpiece and constantly need dusting until the paint wore off. No one ever complimented them, along with the brass horseshoes you had nailed to the wall. Next up is Izal. I don't think for many I have to explain what that word means if you're a certain age like me. For those who don't know what it was a medicated toilet roll that had the consistency of hard, stiff, grease-proof paper. Its efficiency, well, how can I put this? Using Izal, try to wipe up a little bit of spilt trifle from your worktop and see what happens when you try to get it clean. I'll leave the rest of its results of your toilet needs to your imagination. We had this in our schools. It's a memory none of us ever forget and find it tragically funny to talk about, even today. This is a quick one, but it's got to be mentioned. It's dolls that were made specially to cover up your toilet roll. We're still in the bathroom. Yes, a doll placed over your loo roll. I have no idea where the idea came from, but I can remember my mother winning one at prize bingo. I don't think we ever used it. Anyway, we need to move out of the loo. Going upwards. Those chalk painted 3D faces that we had on our walls, I think they were called Hummel. Can't be sure. They were sailors or Native American figures that crumbled on their own, all made in China and looking mean with a frightening glare. We were convinced they were tomorrow's collectibles. They looked horrible and the paint came off every time you tried to clean them. You can still see them online today with people trying to sell them. No one bids. Sorry, we'll have to pop back into the loo again. I did not intend for this to be toilet humour, but this one has just got to be said. The B-Day, for the posh, or those who pretended to be. What were the inventors thinking about here? Now, I did ask a few people in their 70s if they'd ever used one. Well, I asked Carol, you know, the anonymous woman in my TV rental video. No one ever used B-Days, so my survey says they were a non-starter. In fact, the only time they were really used is when they were mentioned in comedy shows in the 1970s for tacky, well-reused jokes, like in George and Mildred. Great comedy series, I still laugh at it today. Oh, and the green colour avocado for bathroom suites. That was on George and Mildred as well. Next we go on to the Ronco record cleaner. Well, I found one of these at a car boot sale and I was really excited about it. Nostalgia kicked in and I couldn't wait to get it home. Put in 100 batteries and popped a record into it. And it went round and round and round, but alas, the record was just as dirty as it went in. Ronco, buccaneers, crochet machines, plastic stuff that was shoved in the attic for years before the tip, or indeed the recycling plant. Here comes the scary one. They scared me. Pressure cookers. They scared the hell out of everyone. All that hot steam coming at you at great force. Steam could easily scald the user. In the early 70s, reports of them blowing up under the pressure and poor locks. Later the safety did improve, but they were seen as up and down the land as unused and taking up hob space, as families were just too frightened to utilise them. The valves on top in the early days were popping off and folks didn't know where they were going to end up. In rare cases, they were catapulted straight through the kitchen window. One I'm not familiar with, but electric ice crushers, making a racket on crushing frozen water that would soon be running water again anyway. Ice cubes are much easier. All you had to do was tip them in water into an ice rack and freeze. I'd say that was simple. A green ice crusher that had only one use, and that was to make slush puppy, and that was the only use it had. Another kitchen gadget taking up space, normally under the sink after one use, of hearing those loud noises which sounded like hailstones bashing against your kitchen window in a heavy storm. I wonder where they all ended up. Next up is the Izal carpet sweeper, well popular in the 1970s, and to be honest, the company is still around today, making much improved models. They were a cheap and quiet way to run a cleaner over your floor without having to use a vacuum cleaner. It will pick up lots of bits of dust from your carpets and then just collect them all and drop them straight over to another part of the floor. Hair or pet hairs would wrap around the wheels, making them harder to clean. In fact, they were harder to clean than the floors. But they were meant to be easy to empty, just lifting the top and tipping it all in the bin. Well, there wasn't a lot to tip, as most of the bits and bobs aforementioned are still on the floor. But people do remember those with the greatest of fondness, and to be honest, they are actually collectible items today. The final one for this particular video is the TV detector van. We all looked out for the TV detector van, which had been out for a while, but its technology had improved by locating high output signals from your antenna or even cathode ray, which was quite expert at the time. But in busy areas of traffic, they could be put off by lots of TVs probably next to each other in terraced houses, so it was harder to spot. Secretly, the vans were more of a deterrent or a scare tactic for non-licensed paying viewers. Later on, following the Freedom of Information Act, the BBC had to admit that no one had ever been prosecuted using the TV detector method. Just thought I'd add this one, another dangerous one, for kids this time. The Kanakas, I think that's how they were pronounced. Two soft balls with a string holding them together. The idea was to make these balls hit each other at lightning speed so they could make a loud click-clack noise. But when those things hit your fingers, it really bloody hurt. Were they ever banned? I hope so. Anyway, it was fun looking back and researching this type of social history in Britain. And if it proves watchable, well, let me know. I will hunt out some more of these wonderful ideas we had back in the day that we can't or daren't use, or they're banned today. Thank you for giving your time to view this, and once again, lots of love and warmth, Mickey.